Martial arts and life have a lot in common. Both take a tremendous amount of patience, determination, grit, a strong mindset. And to get either done correctly, you need the right people to listen to. This is Beyond the Mat, the podcast where real talk meets raw insights. Get ready to dive deep into the world of martial arts, coaching, business, and health as we bring you candid conversations with professionals, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs who are making waves beyond the confines of the dojo. From the adrenaline-fueled arena of combat sports to the boardrooms of successful enterprises, Beyond the Mat is your go-to destination for real and raw discussions, plus invaluable lessons learned on and off the mat. So, if you're ready to unlock the secrets to success in every aspect of your life, let's do this. Live from the Great 1-8, this is Beyond the Mat, where warriors are made and legacies are forged. Here's Mark Cox.
All right, we are live. I don't think you got to see that video yet, huh?
I'm loving that, man. I'm like, I've never seen that one. I love it.
Yeah, I did that. Wow. I put you helped me rebrand my podcast, right? We talked about it, right? It used to be Real Talk, and then you helped me write this book right here, right? This is what set everything in motion. Is this book right here? And Beyond the Mat. And then we just talked, we discussed that maybe we ought to rebrand and get the colors right. I've always liked the red and black look. It's always been part of what my school is. And then we went on with Beyond the Mat, and here we are today doing podcast, writing other books and all that. So with no further ado, this is a good friend of mine from the East Coast. Never comes out to the West Coast, but he's still a friend. He only goes to the fake Disneyland in Florida. He doesn't come to the real one. But love him as a Marine, a veteran, but once a Marine, always Marine, which I have quite a few of those that train with us. So with no further ado, Emilio, I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you're doing and where you live.
Thank you, Mark. Listen, man, absolutely. Daniela and I, my wife, absolutely love Mark. I love what you stand for. We've had the pleasure to, spend time with you, and again, just love what you do, especially for the veterans and law enforcement. For me, the Reader's Digest version, I am a father and a husband first and foremost. I love being a United States Marine Corps veteran. I have a heart for my veterans. I run 2 events annually. Blessings. It looks like we see Danny Z there. And so we run 2 events annually for veterans. And that is a Christmas card drive on Christmas Day, veterans in hospitals, and a Thanksgiving dinner for homeless veterans in shelters and in around Philadelphia. So that is really a little bit about me there. The other side would be that I love sharing people's stories. And that's where Mark and I connected. I was introduced to Mark, and I was able to, again, impart some of my experience with Mark. And then we were able to get his book, Beyond the Mat, which is one of my favorite. And then we helped him to also go ahead and rebrand. And so I thank you for honoring me that way. And man, the best is yet to come, right, Mark?
The best is always yet to come, right? Well, let's dive into the how we met each other, because I wanted to do this book. I've been wanting to do a book forever. And I always thought that if anybody knows my story, I didn't graduate high school. I actually took a proficiency test out of high school. So I went from being in a junior high school where I was in a private junior high school. I was a president of student council. I was a grade A student. And then I went from this small little private school to Reseda High, to a public high school. And I walked onto the football field. I never really played any ball like that. I played all sports in the small private school, but I walked onto this football field as a walk-on. And I'm telling you, man, that was an experience in itself, because you don't know anybody. And, you're getting hammered. You're the new guy. You're the rookie. So it was really hard for me in high school. It was hard for the adjustment. And I just didn't do well there. I didn't do good in that environment. I ended up having to go to continuation school. And then I left. At continuation school was so easy that it was ridiculous. So then they said, hey, you can take a proficiency test. I take this proficiency test. And I said, man, if that was so easy, if I'd have known that, I would have blown out. Tried a little bit of college. Couldn't stand college. Couldn't stand the kind of, there wasn't in college for me, there wasn't a learning aspect. There was an indoctrination, even back in the 80s.
Right.
So I just didn't like it. So I didn't do it. And I just went into the workforce, and I was a machinist, just like my mom, my dad, and my grandfather. And I liked it, but it's just not, you guys know my personality, and then I got introduced to martial arts in my 20s. So if you think that I could write a book, I just how am I going to do that? And so I came across you through Jose, who's a mutual friend of ours. And when I had your first meeting, you know how I am. I'm very kind of withdrawn. I direct questions. And it's so funny because right now I'm working with a marketer that's helping me with my school. And I have been taken advantage of several times, tune of thousands of dollars in this marketing world. Yes. And I was such a dick to this poor guy when he first met with me. And I told him, I said, I really apologize. I says, but I'm telling you, when I'm all in with you, I'm all in. You're going to have to prove yourself to me. And he has. And we just have a great relationship. And I think that was the same way, because I asked him pretty direct questions. And, I'm investing. I think I invested $5,000 right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then I get into it with you, and I'm like, I can't write the book. Okay. I can't think. I'm too filled in my own head on what to say. And then you helped me with what a ghostwriter was. And I really didn't know what that was. I thought that somebody just kind of writes your book for you and you put it out there. And, at first I said, well, that's kind of a cheesy way of doing things. But the ghostwriter, all we did is talk to each other every week.
Right.
And I gave her my stories just like I did you. And then you helped me navigate that into what the book is today. And then, you kind of, you tweak things once your chapters are written. And that's how I came about with Emilio. Right. And it was an experience. But can you imagine that? It took a whole year to write this stupid little book, right?
Yeah.
120 pages. Took me a whole year to write this book.
And now we got a system right now. Now you can do it in fraction of the time now because you got the knowledge.
That's I really thought Danielle was right. See, she remembers. I remember that it took you some time to trust Emilio and believe that you could actually do this. And I don't know. So how do you go about doing that for people? What do you do? What's your formula when you first talk to me? Well, I was a hard customer too. I wasn't easy. I'm pretty direct. There's part of my personality that's kind of like you. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why we almost got in a fight. With the I go to Philadelphia for the first time for the event to launch the book, and I thought Emilio and I were going to have to throw down at the rental place. Man, I was like, oh, this is definitely my kind of guy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you go about doing that, how you help people with that.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Again, love your story, love your journey. And again, you're the kind of person that we love to support because we all have a story. We know that. And it just takes to be a little bit more patient and understanding. And the backside of that is it took me 5 years to actually get my story out because very much like you, I wasn't this scholastic, right? I didn't come from that background. I got that back in first grade because I didn't know how to read. And I had a speech impediment problem, which in Spanish, the word is called gago. Someone who's gago, someone who stutters. So I had some conversations in my head, right? That I just didn't feel like I could write a story. So I wrote a book, cover, everything was completely done. And I kept it, Mark, in my computer. I kept it. And I kept seeing everyone else, share their stuff on social media, best-selling author, etc. And I was like, God, and now I'm having a conversation with God because I'm not a jealous person. Those who know us know we're very generous. That's just who we are. And all of a sudden, I found this spirit of kind of resentment towards other success, right? Which is not a good place to be in. And then I said, God, I don't know how, but in 24 hours, I need you to help me get this book out. And it was just that deep conversation. And be careful for what your heart desires, right? Or what you ask for.
Yeah.
You just might get it. And so all of a sudden, the divine download came. Staples. For some reason, the word Staples came. And I called Staples up and I said, listen, I had this book. Can you somehow get it printed? And you know, Mark, right? The old corporate books where they print out those little corporate books.
Yeah.
So sure enough, the lady said, sure, we can have it for you in an hour. I'm scratching my head. So I send her the file. I pick up like 7 of those things. And man, it might have cost me $30 or $35. Fast forward, I picked it up. It wasn't a perfect binded book, but it was the book that went from my head to the computer to finally me manifesting and holding something. I turned around and I sent one of those out to a gentleman named Angel Fuentes, who's a politician in my area. And the book was called 101 Ways to Thank a Veteran, a how-to guide for honoring our country's most valuable resource. A long subtitle, right? And it was just me putting 101 ways of little acts of kindness that we can all do for veterans. 3 or 4 months later, I received a letter that I'm being honored in City Hall in front of City Council because of my work with veterans. And it was amazing. That snowballed into me wanting to go, wow, like how valuable was that? And right, something that I had, made up in my mind that, my book wasn't good enough. So I know exactly how you felt, Mark. I know exactly how many people feel, right? In terms of having a story, but not knowing how to launch. So I paid lots of money. I went to Canada. I saw Danny Z was on earlier. I went to Canada, learned how they do it there. And I brought back a system. And that's where we honor folks like you, Mark. Now you see how you receive it. I can't quite see it because of this green screen, but we now give people awards with their titles, with their chapters. And it's just been very, very a fulfilling experience, brother. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's that I want to talk to everybody about that. When writing a book is one thing, and as things progress, writing a book is so much easier today than it was even the short two years ago that I did it. I mean, the editing process, all the kind of stuff, you can write your chapter. Well, you can be one of these guys that have AI write your whole book for you, right?
Right.
And so you can have these ideas. And I've got to use AI as an editor for myself now. And I have things on paper, and what I will go tell AI is says, and the weird thing about AI, so those that are listening, it starts to know you. So the more you use ChatGPT, the more it knows your personality. It's really weird. So as I prompt things or as I write things, and I write I wrote a chapter. I think I told you already. I have a book sitting here called Black Belt Tactics in Life and Business. And I haven't done anything with it. It's been sitting for a year now. So I got to do a little more tweaking on it, but I've had it here now for a year. Now, I think that's what I want to talk to everybody else about, right? Because I think everybody should write a book, because it's kind of like what you've always said. It's like a business card. It's weird that it takes you from, oh, you must be an expert in your field. Right. And Anthony's simplifying you.
Hey, Anthony, hurrah, Marine.
And so I thought that once I wrote something, I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? How do I sell this stuff? And that was the next thing that we talked about, right? And it was hard. And I tell everybody, hey, listen, this wasn't the easiest thing for me to do, and it was not easy for me to sell books either. Here's the weirdest thing, Emilio. I talk about this when I do my speaking, right? I was so shocked. Remember when I first talked to you, I said, I'm going to sell 1,000 of these things. Right. I'm going to sell 1,000 books pre-order. That was my goal. And I ended up selling 250. But you say that that's what most people sell, period, right?
Yeah, for lifetime.
On average. I was so shocked at how everybody you put out, hey, I'm writing a book. Here's my pre-order. On how many people like something, share something, but don't buy your book. It was amazing to me. This is why I tell everybody, like, everybody when we first launched the book, I bought everybody's book. Even in all of our authors that were in that, not everybody bought everybody's book, right? It was the weirdest thing to me. I thought 100% that, I got great followers. I got great people behind me. They're going to push me up this hill. They're going to come and support me. And they supported me. They shared it, and stuff like that, but they didn't buy it. And I remember the first 10 people that bought my book, the first 10. As a matter of fact, you know who the very first one was? Jason Flame.
Is that right? Okay.
Jason. Yes. Jason Flame was the first one that bought it. And I started to watch on who's buying things. And I was like, wow, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. So how, do you find that not to be where you have to talk about, hey, listen, you can't talk about it. You got to be about it also. So if you want somebody to give you something, you've got to make sure you do for them. And I remember, like, the last thing that we went to, the last CLA thing we went to, I remember Raul had a booth, and I bought his cup, right? I got his coffee cup because I like that wolf, the whole wolf thing. Even though I'm the bear, and I keep telling him, I said, a bear will rip a wolf apart, just so you know. That's why you guys have to have a pack. You know what I mean? So
I've never heard that before, but that's pretty cool.
And so I bought it, and I wanted to make sure that I supported him, supported your guys's. You had a booth there also. So what do you think about that? I mean, do you not see that as part of and you ask everybody every meeting, and it still doesn't, people hit. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, no, listen, great point. I'm telling you, great point. And so the average author of a book, right? And this is independent authors, speaking statistically of independent authors, not traditional publishing where they give you some money and they do all the promotion and marketing. So that is the missing ingredient, is what you talked about. So it's been known today, it's a fact pretty much now, that the average independent author will only sell about 250 to 350 books for the lifetime of the book, right? The lifetime. And here's what's happening. A lot of it has to deal with not understanding the marketing of your story. This is why we talk about that your story is a wealth building asset, but that's only possible if you understand how to leverage your story. Because Mark alluded to this already. You can go to ChatGPT. He's had his book there for over a year. You can get ChatGPT to write a book, but is it going to be your voice? Right? Is it going to be something that's going to sell? Right? So understanding that there are some systems that you should be putting in place. For example, pre-sale. Pre-sale is crucial, but this is the extent of what I see on social media. Hi, I'm Emilio. Here's my Born to Risk book. Let me go ahead and get the book. Hey guys, here's Emilio Roman, and here's my Born to Risk book. It's going to come out August 16th. Please go buy my book. You know, that's the extent, Mark, of what I see, right? And then they wonder why they don't sell a lot. You have to sell the appointment. Can somebody write that down for me, right? You've got to sell the appointment, Mark, meaning you've got to get on the phone call with some people, right? You're going to get people like you're saying, Mark, that are going to support you just because of who you are. You influence because you are a pillar in the community. and they're just people. Whatever Mark says, they're going to buy. But the majority of the people, there has to be a relationship, and it's not a one and done. Does that make sense, brother? That you've got to really be out there and have a systemization, a follow up. The fortune is in the follow up, right? So if the first time, Mark, you see me come on social media for the book, and if somebody says, hey, they're interested, I'll follow up. I may not even connect with them. So there is a system, and that's where most people drop the ball, is that they think that the end all be all is writing the book.
That's correct. And I think that's a uniqueness of the co-author with you and Daniela. When you guys, one thing we do get now, whether people use it or not, see, that's the next thing. You can lead a horse to water, but you ain't going to make it drink, right? So you could be promoting us all you want. If people don't get on the call, what's the use? And you wonder why. Because you guys have done some really great things. This is like this one here. See this lighted up co-author network?
Yeah, look at that.
Okay. This is one of the award-winning authors from the co-author network. And this kind of stuff, when you have it, sitting out, is quite a, excuse me. It's just something there. So I have these all by my books in my office, right? I got each book I have written. This is the one for this, and how, and what that is. Now let's talk about where the Born to Risk thing that we did together. Now is chapter 43.
Yes.
You have your book over there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there it is. You got it. I have the book. It's all right over here. But
yeah,
yeah, there it is. There it is.
If we can get past the
yeah.
Sorry, man. It is what it is with the green screen. Oh shucks. And it's you get a real nice picture of you. I don't know how we can get it. Oh, sorry about that, but yeah, it looks really good. Ooh, man, why is it we can't get it?
Yeah, it's in. Well, there it is. You got it. You got it. Yeah, well, yeah. I'm in a suit, which isn't something I'm in very often.
Yeah, it looks good.
I decided that, when I said, hey, let's, I'm going to do this Born to Risk with you. And I have done spiritual fitness with you, right? You have a spiritual fitness book. And then I did one called Dear Younger Me, and great. It's a great book, not a great experience.
Right.
To be honest with you. And then I did this one called Thrive. I don't know if you were on that too. Did you have a speaking thing on Thrive?
Yeah, I was in the first edition. I think we were on there together.
Right. Okay. We were in the first edition to that. And then and Born to Risk was the next one. And so you become that people don't understand in the anthology, you become a published author. I mean, it is what it is, right? It doesn't matter if you write a chapter or you write a book. It is what it is. And that's, I think the greatest, some of the greatest anthologies was the Soup for the Soul, right? I think that's where it started, right?
Yeah.
And you got all these little short stories about people's, life. And that was the beauty of what this Born to Risk was, because it's a risk taker, man. It's a risk taker to write. It's a risk taker to be an entrepreneur. Ray's on here also. You see right here, Ray is responsible for a lot of the tattoos on me. Oh, he's one of our tattoo. And he had the same thing. He's saying, when I talked about people, he goes, as an artist, it's right here is the thing. That's very interesting. I could relate being an artist. Like, you have to have your own niche, because it's the same thing, right? What he does, you would think that people think, whether it's you have a consulting or how long you been doing this? How many years?
God, I want to say now just it has to be at least 7. It has to be at least 7 years.
Or at least 7 there. You've been in this space. You did sales for I don't know how long. Now you've been in the consulting business, or I've been doing martial arts now 37 years now. I've been doing this. longer than a doctor. Degrees I have in martial arts is just like what a doctor would have. But for some reason, people think that if you have an hour or so with you, that your time isn't worth like what a doctor's time is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same with Ray. What kind of deal am I going to get on my, on you to spend time to do this artwork? And I don't know how people can get past that. Why don't you give some pointers for people that in this, that you help, how you promote people, but how should people follow up? Let's go that route.
Sure. Excellent.
Okay. From the promotion.
I love it, man. So if I'm hearing you correctly, when it comes to the pricing thing, right? It's been said that price is what you pay and value is what you get, right? So when you're talking about titles and everything else, we've got to understand that you, the author, you are a published author now. You could have been let's just say, Ray's a tattoo artist, right? And he's been doing this for, let's just say, over 10 years, right? He's done it for a long time. Now, there's a lot of tattoo artists, right? In fact, Danny Z owned tattoo shops in Canada. Okay, so let's just say, so for many years. But now, Ray, you are a published author. Now, out of all the tattoo artists, right, whether you're great or not, right, we know that Mark hired him. He's great. But now, because, Ray, you are a published author, and let's just say Born to Rest, let's just say in any of the other anthologies, you now have a competitive advantage. I know you may have a clientele, everything else, but let's just say you didn't. All things being equal, all of them being good, you are a published author. So you should be leading with that. I would change my social media handles. I would include, tattoo artists, however you want to position that. But now you are a published author. People see you on a different level. Why? Because stories sell, facts tell. We've been conditioned, you and I, Mark, and all of us on here watching this now on the replay, that says little kids, stories. So you are and if Daniela, my wife, would write this down, what's the first word? And I know Mark knows this. What's the first word in authority, right? And go ahead, Mark. What is it?
Author,
right? So the minute you are published, whether your own book, like Mark said, which Mark has a beautiful book, right? Beyond the Mat, or you're in like Tammy. So Ray, being published is another tool in our belt. You got it, my brother. So that's one way to leverage it. Your social media handles change when you are introduced, by the way, Mark. Right now, we're doing a lot of podcasts. One of the things I share with Tammy and everyone else is that you should demand how you are introduced. A lot of people are just doing podcasts, but they are allowing other people to introduce them. Does that make sense? So leveraging your title, also saying award-winning author. That's important. Not just best-selling author. Best-selling author means nothing today. Award-winning author now. You see how you presented that award, Mark?
Right. Mm-hmm.
This has a real quantifiable value because now you are an award-winning author. That trumps best-selling author all day.
Which is excellent advice on there. So let's go down this little rabbit hole because I've talked to you about this before. Mm-hmm. You know that I have a really hard time speaking about myself. You know what I mean? And I think that, we went from, podcast, author, getting on the stage. We'll get to the speaking part in a minute, but what it looks like to promote yourself without having that vainness to it. You know what I mean? Because we've experienced the same thing where it's all about me and nothing about anybody else. So I've always had a hard time with this when people ask me, I really don't talk a lot about my rank or I have multiple black belts. I mean, you don't really ever hear me talk about it. I just
no. You're pretty humble about it.
And I guess the reason for it, because people ask me about it for a thing, I said, it does not matter that I hold an 8th degree black belt in something, because I'll go to jiu-jitsu class where I don't hold an 8th degree black belt and I'll get smoked. So who cares what the 8th degree is over here? I said, all that is kind of work steps. You work and you get a rank and you go through your stuff. And in this particular style, I have this ranking and, which is great. And I love it. But I can go to do another class and just get smoked.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, so there's always this learning process. So I never think about, you don't hear me introduce myself as, master. I mean, I can't stand the grandmaster title. It just drives me crazy.
Right.
So and people know it drives me crazy. So they call me it all the time just to piss me off. But that's what my boys always do. So how do you get past that? For those that are listening, hey, listen, you have to promote yourself. Correct? Because
yes,
most people are, not everybody else going to talk about you. You're going to have to talk about something that you do. And I talked to you about this, right? Mm-hmm. Because, I'm in a different area of my life now. And now that I see these young people that I have an organization with people that have all schools, and I try and help them with their teaching. And and I'm sure you have this, right? You've had somebody that you've coached up, and it's like me, I'm the coach. And then here's my student. All of a sudden, my student's kind of rising to my level. Pretty soon, we're peers. Pretty soon, we're workout partners. Pretty soon, I might still bring some stuff to the table, but we have now gotten to an equal playing field.
Yes.
And so how do you go about taking that to the next level to help people talk about their accomplishments and how to push themselves out there?
Yeah, no, listen, thank you, Mark. No, that's awesome. The way you position this. Listen, at the end of the day, and I believe my wife is still there. I'm getting some quick divine downloads. When it comes to social media, let's be honest. There's one reason this social media platform exists, okay? And that is for attention. So we have to understand social media, podcasting, it's a game of attention. And he or she who gets the most attention, pretty much, if you understand how to convert attention, that's important, right? Because we can go do weird stuff and get attention. So the attention is the name of the game, but following that up with conversion, meaning, for example, Mark, you got this beautiful podcast, you got this beautiful book, right? And you got someone who's really good at what they do. Well, let's just back it up. Someone who's got something that they love, but they're not good, like you were saying, at positioning themselves. Right. But they know that does that make sense? So they're good, like Tammy, they're good at what they do, but they don't know how to grab attention. Here's one of a couple of things that's coming to me. Curate other people's content. And Daniela, put down, please, the 3 E's: edify, educate, and entertain. So this is a nice way, Mark, of someone who's not really good at marketing, gaining attention, but they can do a couple of things immediately. So, for example, again, Tammy can go ahead and she can curate your content, right? She can come on and she's in the book that you are in, Mark. She's in this book. She can go ahead and say, hey, let's congratulate all the co-authors in the Born to Risk book. Hey, you got to go read Mark Cox's the last chapter in the book, right? So that's one way, Mark, and when they read, guess what? When they read your story, it's okay for her to say, and by the way, I am chapter 24. I'm just making that up. I don't know what chapter she said. But you see that? So when you edify others, Mark, that's one way that you can do it. Also, you can educate, right? You can say, hey, listen, hello, my name is Mark Cox, and I'm going to show you today my favorite move, the rear choke, right? Well, we know you like to choke people out. And you can show people how to get it, put somebody in a choke or get someone out. But at the end of the day, you've got to be educating others. That's one way to do it. You can be edifying others, right? And again, or sharing and liking. And the last one is, what did we say? Educate, entertain. And what's the other E?
Edify, educate, entertain.
Entertain. There you go, right? So rear naked roast. Ray. There you go. And again, exactly what Ray just did, right? Rear naked, right? So it's kind of fun. So you can come up and, again, share something funny, grab someone's attention that way. Does that make sense, Mark? I'm just giving you a couple of different suggestions.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great for people because, it's weird. Like I told you before, I haven't really even put out that. I put out that I wrote the book, but I haven't put out like, hey, here's these 5 books that I've done. I haven't even really put out the trophy for speaking, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I don't know why that is. It's just, I think, well, you've heard my story before, because I was a cocky one, boy, when I competed. And I remember you've heard my story about it turned me that day when I was so cocky and the guy in the wheelchair, won that competition. And I was a real ass that day, real ass. And then when he told his story that he was dying, and I realized at that particular time that, wow, this was not my time to be this world champion. It did not matter one bit, but my ego was so engaged that I couldn't see past it. I was so embarrassed of myself for my attitude that I just stopped doing that altogether. And I guess that's always just kind of stuck in my head. You know what I mean? And also let's be honest with this. Tell me, when you start putting yourself out there, you are going to get criticized. You know what I mean? It is going to, and some people just don't want to hassle the bullshit that comes with it. Right. Depending on what it is, it's this fear. And now I know my personality too. And I've done this a few times where I put myself out there and you get some jackass to come on and talk shit. And I'm like, you can just meet me at, we have open mat on Mondays. You're welcome to come down here. Talk your shit all you want, but let's get on the mat and talk. And then I go down a rabbit hole of instead of just ignore. How do you help people through that?
Awesome, man. I'm telling you, Mark, you and I are very much kindred spirits. We're about to get it going in. That time when you came down, I was having a little bit of a situation. Mark was like, what's going on? And I was, running my mouth. And then Mark was like, no, we're good. Because when I saw you get fired up, I said, oh, shit, I better calm down. I said, I better calm down. Let me grab my emotions. I don't want to unleash the West Coast out here. But I tell you what, here's what I've learned, my good friend. Expect it, accept it, and get past it. That's what my mentor and good friend Austin Haynes has taught me. And that when you decide that you're going to be an entrepreneur and author, you need to understand that you've got to come out and you got to find ways to share your story. And exactly what you just said, Mark, these things are going to happen. So once you can come to that framework, right? Expect it, accept it, and find ways to get past it. Now, that's the last part. It's pretty easy, right? I mean, it's easier said than done. How do you do it? This is why you go. We're tribal beings, right? This is why we have a community. This is why we give you the information. And a lot of people need to stay in the middle of the herd. Everybody wants to go out and do their own thing. And that's why the anthologies are the way to go, Mark, because you're not going to connect with everyone, right? Let's just be honest, right, Mark? You've done so many anthologies. How many people have you really connected with?
Well, you're 100% correct on that. The anthologies, they're, cool stories too. Dear Younger Me is a great thing because what I did in Dear Younger Me is I wrote myself a letter in Dear Younger Me, right? To read to myself, which I thought was a great thing, but nothing as far as getting it out there or marketing like Co-Author Network does at all. In having this big event where you launched the book or whatever it is you did. I think you were just for Born to Risk, you were just on a yacht, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Everybody dressed like a white popsicle stick. And
I was waiting to see you in the jeans. You said you were coming.
Listen, I went and bought the white jeans, so I was halfway there. It just didn't. Yeah, it's so hard traveling back and forth to the East and West Coast all the time. There's an expense that goes with it.
Sure.
Especially when you're trying to invest in other avenues, you have to kind of pick and choose.
Oh, no, you're right.
But you have another yacht experience next year. I will definitely be at this one. So we have I got a good friend on that one that's actually getting his, and we've talked about doing an anthology for martial arts, right?
Man, you need to be the first one.
Right. And almost Beyond the Mat is almost something similar to that thing, because every martial arts has something that goes on in the
Yes.
inside that goes off to the outside. And what a simple way for martial artists to get their stories out there, and what the impact of it is. So, I know that we've spoke about that, getting that off the ground.
Yes, we have to.
But naturally, so what happens next is the speaking, right? So you've
Yes.
had these speaking competitions for years now.
Yes.
And when we did the first launch of the book, all of us got to get up there and have a little bit. But what set me aside that day was smashing some bricks,
Yes.
right? And I was like, and that was really, that just kind of catapulted what I do.
Yes.
And now that's what I'm remembered as, right? Oh, is he going to break bricks? Is he going to do that? Is he going to, what? So that got me. I took advantage of that part right there. But that's just stuff that I like to do anyway. But then the speaking came, and then you kept on. Then the competition starts, and I tell everybody I am a competitor, man, down deep. And when I don't win, I am like really flustered. All right. Matter of fact, I hate losing more than I like winning. Okay. Isn't that weird? I can't stand to lose, but more than I like to win. But this is something that you guys helped catapult me. And we're going to talk about this. You and I went to a speaking academy, and we had a great time, by the way. It was good. It was very good lessons for us in there. It was very eye-opening. And then I look back on my reel for that. I won't even put my reel out there, because to me, I'm like, man, this just sucks. Okay. I was such a beginner at really on how to formulate my thoughts. How many filler words am I using? All the stuff that goes on. Can you still be genuine and have a voice out there that people want to listen to? And so I started, and then I lost every freaking one. Okay. Every time I got up on stage, in my head, I'm like, this is a good story. And then I have to compete with some of these female stories, right?
Right. Yeah. You mentioned that.
Right. And you just get like hammered. Like, my story is not shit compared to what they went through. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And how do you beat that? It's just like when I competed. How do you compete against a wheelchair? Right. So part of that is you need to push yourself past these boundaries on so you can move an audience. And how do you move the audience? And remember, now listen, I think I did 4 times, and I told you, I said, I want to start this Toastmaster thing. And I'm telling you, it was the best thing that I ever did, because inside this group, you got people that have been speaking now, or Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmasters and stuff like that. And I went in there and I just raised, you know how I am. I'm kind of a motivator. Yeah. And they could tell right out of the gate that, hey, you are going to have something special if you continue down this road. But I'm all animated and everybody's all jacked up. But then I'm getting kind of, maybe I'm not winning on some of these nights, and they're telling me, hey, this is where you have to frame this. You're doing too much word salad. You're throwing up on people. They're going to be excited when you're talking. This was the best thing I ever heard. Emilio, you tell me what you think. One things I said, you can motivate the whole room, but nobody remembers what you said.
Yeah, powerful.
And I said, why is that? He says, because you don't have a concise. I wouldn't do more than 3 points, because sometimes I think we have to put all of our points in at one time, right? And as opposed to break down maybe what your story is, maybe the story of my ego getting past, and like, hey, what happened here? Well, it was my attitude, is what happened, and this is how God corrected me. And these are the 3 steps I would take not to have an ego, and it would be this, this, and this. And I said, do you agree? And you do some stuff naturally anyway. You ask questions, raise your hand. Who's out there? Who agrees with me? This kind of stuff is what I started to learn. And then number 4 came around, and I told you, I'm not doing a freaking virtual. And then you screwed me and made Daniela call me. You had your wife call me because I won't tell her no. I'll tell you
Oh
no.
my
Okay.
God.
All right.
I was like, tell Mark.
And so she calls me and I'm like, oh, I know Emilio put you up to this. That sucks.
Aren't you glad aren't you glad?
But I'm like, and so I said to myself, I said, okay, then I'm going to do this. And once again, doing something virtual, that's a whole new ball game on how you talk. Can you still use your hands? Are you animated enough on when you link it? Eye contact. Are you looking at everybody online? Are you just kind of looking at the camera, not
Right.
engaging? And so I decided to do this. And on number 4, I happened to win that competition. And there was there was a stiff competition in there.
This event wife. That's funny.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a great event wife. I'm telling you right now. I always had coffee, whatever I needed. It was great. So I decided that that was the beginning of like, because I just did not want to do it. I'm like, the
Right.
virtual thing sucked. So tell me, when you tell I think everybody, any kind of small speaking, so if you're an entrepreneur, you got to have some kind of speaking skills, right? And you got to have you got to be able to tell stories. Like you said, stories sell. And I'm good at captive. That's one thing I will say, that I'm good at bringing in something that people will go, oh wow, and they're going to listen to my stories because I got some really good stories, right? Or can you make emotions? Can you imagine me? Like, I've told this story several times when his little name was Chase, right? His little baby, and he died. He died of. I held him the night before, and this family did it. But can you imagine me seeing a dad so struck that he can't carry the casket, that I had to carry his baby's casket to the grave, and why he sobs? I mean, you can just, that was life changing for me that day. Carrying this thing. I held the baby the night before. 2 days later, I'm carrying it to its grave. I was like, man, that lets you, gives you some perspective on life. And so I just think that you help catapult me this way and I'm not really perfect either. I'm not a perfect speaker, because some people really have really well thought out processes and very professional in what they do. And it brings a level of you realize what a white belt you are once you start. I think I'm in the purple belt range now of speaking, not quite the black belt range. But once you give a thing about why you did, why is the speaking important? Why did you go to classes, even though you've done it for a while?
Thank you, brother. Amen. Listen, I love your story. Thank you for pouring into us. And I love the analogy you mentioned about, where you are in terms of belt and in terms of rank, right? White is the beginner. And so here's the truth. Like for me, when I speak, butterflies and unicorns don't come out of my mouth. I had a speech impediment problem. So for me to do what I do today is I do this because your story is how you impact, is how you influence, and how you earn an income. Whatever you're doing today, it's all about your messaging. You have to be, and if my wife wouldn't mind writing this down again, your story is a wealth building asset. Everything you and I want out of life, we have to be able to communicate. I've got to communicate. I got to sell my wife every single day. I can't miss a day on why she should keep me. Remember, we talked about self-esteem, right? This is and you helped me do something with it. I know you can't see it, but I've got to be able to sell my wife. I have to do certain things. I got to be able to sell Mark on why I should be alive with him. So we must understand that learning how to craft your story, your message, and why people are gravitating towards what we do, Mark, is because they'll see me come on alive like this on social media. They'll see me stutter. They'll see me mumble. They'll see me fumble. And they go, he can do it. What do you mean he's in a Guinness World Record for one of the most authors signing a book simultaneously? What do you mean, Emilio? He puts on speaking events? The guy's fumbling through half the stuff. And people say that about me, and I love it because it's the truth. I say, look, if I can do it, you can do it. And that has been a big thing. Joseph Tomzik said that about me. He goes, I see you struggling sometimes, and I still show up.
Right. That is true. I think how genuine you are on stage is what makes it the best. That's why I think even at the last event, right, the CLA event, it was one of the speakers, and her very last thing was, I can't remember what she's selling, but it's just like I was so tuned out because it was such a used car salesman talk. I'm like, oh no, and I can't deal with that. Or when you listen to, on the opposite stream, you listen to Marilyn speak about, she has a life-changing
nonprofit,
nonprofit. God, see, look at, I don't have Alzheimer's. I have Alzheimer's. Sometimes I forget what the heck I'm saying. She has this nonprofit now that is impacting lives, and coming from a death of a child, right? And it was just so impactful when I got to meet with her, right? And I've gotten to meet such great people that way. So when you hear these impactful stories, like, man, she was there at 9/11, a nurse, lost her baby leukemia, marriage still stays intact. And where that is an impactful story. And you made that stage for us to be able to do that, which was awesome. And we really know that Daniela really runs everything in the background. Let's not. Okay. Keeping you straight is a full-time job anyway. Okay. So
Hey, listen, Mark. Well, I think we can agree on this point that the best man for the job is a woman, right? I mean,
right.
we can agree on that. We can agree on that.
Yeah. Well, it is definitely Daniela. See what Daniela says? She wants a raise.
Oh man, I probably shouldn't have said that. She's gonna use this in court.
But I think that's where it was next. So your co-author stuff that you did, you're speaking, and then I guess you did a speaking engagement on the yacht.
Yes.
Right now, was that did you improv that? Was that last minute, or did you have people sign?
Oh man, that question gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, did you put people on the spot?
So there you go. See, I got goosebumps now. I have to. Wifey again. That was Wifey's idea. So watch this. We had the speaking competition, and then I had these 3 trophies from one of the competitions that we were having virtually that we didn't get to because we increased it up to 3 different genres, right? We had different things going on. She goes, why don't we do an impromptu speaking engagement right there? And oh my God, Mark, people absolutely loved it because there was no clue that it was going to happen. So you know the way we love to do it, Mark. We have people like you who are champions, right? And I think Daniela put it down there that you won. I don't think you ever shared your trophy with us here, but you won this competition, right? You took first place. Anyway, we found the time to go ahead, and I picked 3 people already, and she picked 3 people. And I said, listen, in the spirit of Born to Risk, the way we did it, in the spirit of Born to Risk, you're going to be asked one time. It's either yes or no. And so she picked her 3 people. We made it seem like, hey, it was just there. And they said yes. And sure enough, my God, it was awesome. It was awesome. People showed up, like their stories showed up. We asked them the same question, Mark, that we asked you and all the co-authors, like risk. What's the greatest risk you've ever taken that has yielded the greatest result? That was for the book. But for the competition, we asked them, what does risk mean to you? And they took off with it. It was tough.
Yeah. Hey, those are that's the beauty of I guess it would be called table topics in Toastmaster, where you don't know what the topic is. Then the topic comes that night, and then you don't know if you're getting called on the question or not. So you have to kind of think on your feet. Oh man, if he calls me, what am I going to say? And you got to be able to, and you got a 2-minute time frame too. And I think that's the other thing that was so impactful for me when I was learning is that you do not need to speak for an hour to impact. You know what I mean? A good 5 to 7 minute speech is very impactful in itself. You know what I mean? That if you
True.
have an organized thoughts and how to organize your thoughts and how to move people to do something. And I think that's where you guys you allowed that to come in. And then, we'll end on this one thing that only you. Now I'm watching it start to be duplicated out, something that you started. That's Ray say, I'm glad I joined on this podcast. I'm intrigued about sharing my story. See?
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, we'd
Big
love
Ray.
to connect with you, and especially if Mark, you co-sign on him, because remember, we don't accept everyone's story, but we'll gladly have a conversation.
Yeah. So it's when on the last topic that we have is your prosperity pricing, what that looks like. Selling a book for $25 is one thing, but selling a experience is different, or selling a nonprofit.
Yes.
So now the books that I have, right? We went from selling a book now for 25 on some of these books, like Born to Risk is already, I think, out there at what? Is it 97, the price point, or 150? What is it?
Yeah. So thank you, Mark. So well, Born to Risk is we have it listed for 125 on the back.
Right. So it's listed at 125. Us as authors can do what we want with that.
Right.
But you came up with the prosperity pricing of when you sell more, you can give more. Now I have this Born to Risk. This is what I'm working on, is a landing page for Born to Risk, but it has the video implanted of special kicks. You saw in my opening where I'm with some of my Down syndrome boys, right? I love that community, and I love speaking to them. But you see all these guys. You see a young man that has cerebral palsy, doesn't speak well, but can speak. We get him on the ground and we're doing jujitsu, and you watch us put a tape around his belt to promote him, and we have to help him walk up to get his rank. He can be okay on the ground. So I got to wrestle with him. That got 1 million views. His excitement. Now I have this Born to Risk. You can see how I started a martial arts school, from ministry to a business, how I started. And now, but part of these proceeds gets to go to help these guys.
Yes.
And so now you're not buying the book, you're buying special kicks. And the book is almost what you get to write of the other people that had these risk stories taken. And it's been pretty, that has been life-changing, right? Because it can help you get your investment back.
Correct.
But here's the beauty, right? You don't have to have your own nonprofit. How come I can't use Maryland's? How come somebody else can't use special kicks? Correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I love it, Mark. Yeah, you understand the leverage, right? Leverage other stories. No, so thank you for sharing that, Mark. No, this is great, because I know we're coming down to the end of the wire here. I'm thankful my wife is putting some things down, but share your story. And we talk about this, Mark. If you're not telling your story, someone else will. And the chances of it being exactly how it happened, it's not going to happen, right? It's like whisper down the lane. And I do this all the time. I'm like, whether we got 5 people in the room, Mark, or 50 people, I always say the same thing. Okay, so come on, real quickly, and let's just get it going. I go, Emilio likes hot dog with lots of relish, right? Before it's all over, Emilio is a vegan. How the hell does that happen? We're in the same room. People can't get that story straight. So, Mark, when you and I share our story, whether in an anthology or in your own book, Beyond the Mat, and I encourage people to buy his book. I know he's going to have some other future editions, but get the original. There's only one original. Get it now. Get Mark's book. What Mark has done is he sets the record straight. If ever there's a question about his record, or someone says something about it, go, listen, go to page 39. I've already talked about it. So you set the record straight. That's first thing. Number 2, it's a print and legacy. Think about it. If something happens to Mark, at some point I'm going to expire. At some point Mark's going to expire. But one of the things we're never going to have is a regret of not sharing your story. It may not be his full story, but his legacy is in print right now. Is your legacy in print? Are you going to die with the music still in you? I'm very passionate about this. This is not a sales pitch. I'm so passionate that I shared my story. And remember, my story was in a computer for 5 years because I told all these stories to myself. And because I had the courage to share my story, people got honored. People called me. Now the books are in Ivy League schools, and other people are helping veterans because I had the courage. And the last thing, Mark, that I'll share is life shrinks or expands according to one's courage. And that's my favorite quote.
Yes. I think that's what a great way to end our hour together on that. And I will tell you that it's been life-changing for me to be part of that first time that I wrote this co-author book. It has opened up a whole new thing for the podcast, for the speaking, for all of it. And because it's helped me it's helped me organize my thoughts. And I just did because of the speaking stuff and the Toastmasters and all the competitions. I got to do the toast for Dickie's wedding. And it was a moving toast, and it moved a lot of people. And I said, that's what I enjoy about talking when I get up in front of the group, is when they come to me and said, can I get a copy of that? Because that was, really good. And I think what I ended with on that is the power of 100%. And I think this is in all relationships. They say that marriage is 50-50, but that's really not true. Marriage or relationships are 100%. Maybe people bring 50% to the table. But if you don't have that percentage that day, maybe you have 20% to give to your partner, and you communicate that and say, look, my day, I got about 20% for you. And then that other part of your relationship is say, hey, I got your other 80% then. And that will equal for that to be the 100%. All right. Maybe you just need to carry that burden a little bit more because you just don't have that 50% to give based on your day. And so that's how I ended the speech. And I think that's how I end this today, that in your relationships, you bring to the table to make it 100%, whatever that is, your business relationships, your marriage relationships, your kids' relationships, or whatever that is. It's okay to communicate to your kids, hey guys, I know dad's supposed to show up 100%. I got about 50% today, man. I need you to bring the other half to me. And so I want to thank you and Daniela for getting me started in that path, for sure. And know that I'll look forward to the next chapter in what we do. Look forward to being a judge now on, and coaching. I enjoy the coaching part of speaking now. And let me see what else you put. Danielle's got all kinds of live streams expanded according to one's courage. See, she's the one that really has all this shit together.
That's it, man. You know
it. So Tammy's been here the whole time too. She's such a good person.
Tammy,
all right.
We love Tammy.
Okay. And so with that being said, I wanted to thank you now for taking the hour, because I know your days are busy. So if anybody here wants to look at their Born to Risk anthology, they are taking people now for chapters. They'll do an interview process with you. And if you want to get started on something like that, I would encourage you, because I've been through a lot of anthologies now, like 5 of them. But I can tell you one thing different about this one is they will promote you and who you are. They will make sure that your name is there. And on that day, you will be honored. You will be honored with awards. You'll be honored as, you'll get up and get to share with everybody else what you have. So if this is something you're looking for, you want to do a little bit of anthology, I would encourage you to reach out. I got his number. You can find Emilio on all Facebook. It's what his name is. And if you go in there and look for him, you'll find him for sure. Okay. And Daniela will be the one that will keep him in line. So there's that. Right. So I appreciate it, Emilio. Thanks for spending this hour with me. We will talk soon. And thanks for your service.
Amen. I appreciate you. God bless you.
All right.
You've been listening to Beyond the Mat. Our passion is martial arts, and that branches off to coaching, business, and health. So we think it's important to sit down with professionals, coaches, authors, entrepreneurs, anyone who's making waves beyond the confines of the dojo. Thanks for coming over. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at markcox.com and hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Beyond the Mat Podcast. Find the show on Spotify and Apple. Beyond the Mat. Till next time, keep it real.